Welcome to the podcast. I'm Ty, a mom of two and entrepreneur. 2 years ago, I launched Next Chapter Studio, my motherhood photography business. And now I am launching Next Chapter Collective, a sister brand of my original business that is all about building a community for moms in any chapter of their motherhood journey. On this podcast, I will be interviewing other moms every single Tuesday, talking about anything and everything. We are diving into all of it. So join us every Tuesday for Next Chapter, the podcast, and let's get into it. Raylene, thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So today I wanted to chat about your IVF journey. I know we talked about a little bit what we wanted to talk about, but you, in your words, you said 3 years of ups and downs. Yes. That you and your husband experienced. So before we get into your entire journey, which I think so many people can relate to, I just want you to share a little bit about yourself. So a little bit about, what you do, you and your husband, and then we can really get into your journey.
Okay. My husband and I, we've been married for almost 4 years now. I'm a nurse. I'm a registered nurse at Samaritan Hospital. I work in an operating room. Love it.
Yeah.
I am a charge nurse, and it's crazy and chaotic, and I wouldn't have it any other way. My husband and I met actually online. We met on Bumble.
Oh my
gosh. Yeah. We both had like a prior dating history, and we were going to give up at that point. And then finally we both swiped, and it was instantaneous. We moved in together 4 months later. We got engaged a year later.
Oh my gosh.
And then here we are. We've been together ever since, and we have a good relationship. We have a good family. We live close to my family.
That's nice.
Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just dive right into your entire experience. So I love hearing how people first made that decision to start a family. So could you tell me a little bit about your journey to becoming parents, and when did you and your husband decide that you wanted to start having a family?
We kind of talked about it prior to, and I always said, I want children, whether you do or not, if you don't, then it's kind of a deal breaker because this is what I want. I've always wanted to be a mother, and he was on board. I did tell him it was probably going to be hard. I was told from a young age that I would have trouble having children.
Really?
Unfortunately, when I was 17, I got diagnosed with PCOS. So they had said at the time, I'm 38 now, so that long ago, the doctor didn't tell me anything. They told me nothing other than, you'll probably have a hard time having babies. And I said, okay.
Thanks.
Cool. I don't even know what that means at that age.
Yeah.
And then, come to find out that is what happened. But we decided to start trying immediately when we got married, because we thought it would be a while, hoping that it wouldn't. It was. So about 6 months after we got married, I went to the doctor, and the regular doctor is like, you'll be fine, no big deal. I said, well, can I talk to a fertility doctor? If you want. They don't care. They didn't care at all. So
they were very casual,
laid back about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, something's up here.
Yeah.
So they didn't give me a referral or anything. I took it upon myself. I called Boston IVF.
Wow.
We dealt with that. They were awesome, and we kind of went from there.
So when you were told, you said at 17 you were told?
Yeah.
So between that time frame and getting married and deciding, okay, this is when we want to start trying, did you look into the infertility at all? Did you know at 17 that you were diagnosed with that, or did they tell you later on?
They never told me I specifically had that. They told me I had certain symptoms of it, but they never came right out and said it.
Wow.
Which, looking back now, I don't know why, other than, it was 2002 at the time. Maybe they just didn't talk about it. Maybe they didn't have as much information. I really don't know. But I kind of just, you're in your late teens, early 20s. I didn't think twice about it.
Yeah.
I just went on with life and didn't have a second thought other than, well, when I meet my partner, it's going to be a big deal. That was where I left it.
Yeah. So you never really looked into it in this, you kind of just said, when it's time for me to start a family, that's when we'll really dive into figuring out what's going on.
Yeah, I was always nervous. Like, I
Yeah.
always said to myself, well, if I have kids, like, knowing that it might not, you know, but I didn't try to dive in.
Yeah.
I think more out of fear.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't know what would happen.
Yeah. So when I was initially going to ask when and how did you realize that you might be experiencing infertility, but I guess going into it, you already had that mindset that it might be a little difficult. So after those 6 months, what were those next steps once you contacted Boston?
So when I first contacted them, it was probably, I called around February of 2020. And
Okay.
of course, unfortunately, the world shut down in March. That office was still taking consultations though. So we
Okay.
did do a phone consultation and was able to talk about options, talk about plans, all of that. Nothing really got set into motion until probably the summer of 2020. I had to go for blood work. I had to do what they called an HSG, which is a hysterosalpingogram, where they basically check if your fallopian tubes are open.
Okay.
I had to do I think those were the main 2 tests I had to do. And then we started with IUI, which is like a lesser,
I was just going to say, I think I know what it is, but what is the difference between IUI and IVF?
So IUI, they actually take your partner's or someone's sperm sample, and they put it, it's like an intrauterine insemination.
Okay.
So you go into the office, it's super simple, you know, a PA is in the room with you, and they basically, you go in like you're having an exam.
Okay.
That's like the setting that you're in.
Yeah.
And they put in I guess a syringe, you could call it.
Yeah.
And insert it, and then you wait and see if you get pregnant.
So is that the step before IVF? Is that what they like to try before they would try IVF?
Yeah. So
Okay.
for some people jump straight to IVF. They
Okay.
know that it's not going to work for them. You do still have to take medication for the IUI. Like I had
Okay.
to take a little bit of medication, such as like making sure that my ovaries were stimulated still, and
Okay.
that like my body was going to be receptive to everything.
Okay.
But it didn't work for us. We did it twice, and at that point they basically were like, we're not going to keep trying this for you. Like, it's just not going to work
Okay.
based off of what you have going on.
How long do they wait in between that appointment and seeing if it did work? What is the time frame in between that?
From the time they do the IUI?
Yeah.
I think it's about 10 days because they
Okay.
try to time it where you're ovulating.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, where like it would be like naturally
Yes.
type thing.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it was about 10 days, and then they would do what they call a beta.
Okay.
People call it like beta day.
Uh-huh.
They go in and take your blood and see if you're pregnant, and it didn't work either time, but so we moved on.
Okay. So at that point, when it hadn't worked twice, did they now say IVF is this next step and this is what we're going to go forward with?
Yeah, they said if you they were always great about like if you're comfortable with it, if you want to go through with it, because it's a lot of mentally, physically, emotionally,
Yeah.
everything. Financially, we
Yeah.
were lucky where my husband has really good insurance and we had some of it covered.
Okay. That was
Some
one of my
it-
questions for you.
Yeah, some of it was not. And we had to pay some out of pocket, certain tests and stuff like that. But thankfully, we had phenomenal insurance. But some people are not as lucky.
That was one of the things I wanted to talk about because I feel like IVF is notoriously known for being extremely expensive. And I didn't know until I was reading some articles, I didn't know that most insurance companies do not cover most of it. So you obviously don't have to go into numbers, but a general idea, what would you say that your IVF experience, I mean, is it like a range? Can you give me a
As far
range?
as like if I had the insurance or didn't have the insurance?
Let's say without insurance.
So I don't know a completely specific number, but I know like I can tell you now because we are out of we only had 6 chances, they called it.
Okay.
That's like how we said it, but there was like, you could use it up to 6 times. So
Okay.
and that counted for IUI, that counted for IVF, and that counted for the egg retrievals. So it went IUI, IVF, which they call the egg retrieval.
Okay.
And then the embryo transfers.
Okay.
So we're out of that. So I know like our next embryo transfer at a minimum is going to cost about anywhere from $3,500 to $5,000.
Okay.
The egg retrievals themselves, I mean, you go under anesthesia, you're in an OR, you're paying for all that. So it's easily 10 grand or more.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had to do 2 egg retrievals. So
Yeah.
if we hadn't had insurance, we wouldn't have been able to do that.
Right.
Quite frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really, once you actually say it out loud, that's a lot. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot. And, you know, I follow a ton of people on Instagram and
Yeah.
everything. And there's people on there who have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars.
sure.
And we couldn't have ever done it.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they do it. They
Yeah.
just do. They make it work. That's their goal and they go with it. Yeah. It's wild.
Okay, so going back to when you decided to start IVF, was it a difficult decision for you because of the mental, financial, physical, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot on you mentally, it's a lot on you physically, and obviously financially. Was it a hard decision for you guys? Do you feel like you sat down and really had to think about it? Or do you think you were in such a mindset where you knew you wanted to start a family and this was obviously the next step you needed to take?
I think both.
Okay.
Before we had gotten too far into it, I had always said, well, if it gets to IVF, we're not going to do it.
Okay.
And then I said, well, let's just see what they say. And then, you know, then you're in it. And in my head, I'm like, well, here we are. Like,
Yeah.
I'm crazy not to do this. Like,
Yeah.
I obviously want this so bad. I think it took a tiny bit of convincing for my husband because I think he was a little scared. He didn't quite understand all of it.
Yeah.
And because it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I do think, you know, if we didn't have the insurance, we would have taken a lot more time to figure that out.
Yeah.
Because I think it would have probably come to, we might not have been able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did, I guess, bring us through the entire experience? What were those first steps? And I know you said you wrote down like the medications that you took, the prep for that. So let's start with the prep. What was the prep for IVF? Did you have to, you know, ahead of time prepare physically and take medication to prepare for the entire process?
Yeah. So my doctor was great. We had to do some extra blood work. We had to do some genetic testing, like basic genetic testing, to just see if my husband and I had certain markers for things.
Okay.
And if we did, they would kind of recommend, you know, extra testing, or if we didn't, then okay, great. So we had to do some of that. I had to take some extra vitamins, a prenatal, obviously. I had to make sure that I was taking like extra folic acid, things like that. And then as far as like any other prep, they kind of wanted you to remain like low stress. Well, that's pretty impossible.
I know, I didn't even mean to laugh when you said that, but it's like, okay,
really,
what do you want from me, really?
And I'd be like, you know what my job is, right? Like that's just not even an option.
Yeah.
And you know, they were super patient about it, but really they want you to just kind of, because your body doesn't react well to stress, obviously.
Yeah.
So we had to do that. We had to take, I got this box of medication before we started. It was literally like just a gigantic box and so many boxes of things. They give you extra, obviously, but I had to, it was something called Menopur, which stimulates your ovaries.
Okay.
Let me rewind, actually. I had to start on birth control again. So,
really? Okay.
Yeah, so at the time I was like, what do you mean I have to start on birth control again?
Yeah.
So they want you at like a base level.
Okay.
And they want your body to not basically have the chance of getting pregnant as well while you're trying to prepare for this.
Okay.
So they want you at your base. So you take birth control, You wait till you go like the whole pack, just like you normally would. Wait till you get your period.
Okay.
When you get your period, you call the office. You say this is cycle day 1. And then that's when the ball starts rolling. They'll tell you when to take medication, certain medications. So as far as an egg retrieval goes, you take Menopur, which is ovary stimulator, basically to get you going. Mm-hmm. I had to take something called Gonal F. These are all shots too. This increases like your egg production.
Okay.
Because you want more, because they're pulling them from you, the eggs. Right. Something called Ganirelix. So that was to stop ovulation. It was kind of like to slow it down. I can look up.
So all of this was shots.
All of this was shots, except for the birth control, obviously.
Did they all need to be done at certain times of the day?
Yeah. So a lot of
Oh my gosh, did you have like a calendar or?
Yeah. Thankfully, the Ganirelix is for the premature ovulation. They don't want you to ovulate at all. Okay. Yeah. So the office was really good, and the nurses they gave you a calendar. Like this is when you take this. This is when you do this. Most of the time, they were in the evening that I would take them. Okay. There were some that were in the morning, but most of them. But they laid it all right out for you, thankfully, because my mind was spinning.
Yeah. That's overwhelming.
Yeah, that's super overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then in between all of this, you're going to the office every couple of days to get blood work and an ultrasound. And the ultrasound is internal.
Oh my gosh.
Because they have to check your ovaries to see how they're doing, to see how your follicles are doing. They do a follicle count, it's called, which is where your eggs are. They're like these little, they almost look like when they get big enough, they look like grapes coming off of your ovaries. Okay. If you look on the screen.
Yeah.
And that's where the eggs are. So they do a count, and they do a size count. So there's certain millimeters that they want the follicles to get to before you can move on to the next step. Okay. So
all of that was done every couple of days?
Every couple of days you're going in. So it's not only like all of that, then I'm worrying about like work and scheduling appointments around that and saying to them, I got to come in late. I got to leave for a little bit and come back. Like things like, and they were great about it, but it was just one more thing to have on your plate.
It's a huge time commitment.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You're essentially rescheduling your life to fit around these appointments.
Yep. When you're in it, you're in it. Like
it's a huge,
and it's a time crunch because you have this little window that you're working with. It's basically like a 2 to 3 week window that you're preparing your body for. Yeah. And then that's it.
So that first time that you did that, what were you successful? What was?
So we did. We ended up. Everybody's different, obviously. So like what I took, not everybody takes. Yeah. So we had to do a trigger shot before they would do the egg retrieval. Okay. Which basically puts you into ovulation. Okay. So you're stopping it and then starting it. Okay. Because then they want everybody to be like ready to go. Like everybody meaning your eggs. Right. Like ready to roll. Yeah. So I went in, and this retrieval, they took 18 eggs. Wow. Which is good. That's a good number.
They say what's average?
I don't remember exactly what they said. I remember like being there, and you hear different like conversations, and some people like got 30, some people got 5. It's all dependent on your body and how your body reacts to the medication and what like your quality of eggs are and all of that. So we got 18, which is pretty good.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah. It is a lot. And then they take them and fertilize them that day. So then the next day they tell you your fertilization count. So we had 13 fertilized. Okay. And then we have to kind of wait. We wait for like, I want to say it was like 5 or 6 more days. And then they tell you like how many made it. They call it the blastocyst stage. Okay. That's where they want you to see if this is going to be the egg that they can transfer or freeze. Okay. So at that point, we only had 3 eggs that made it.
Out of 13?
3 embryos, out of 13 that had fertilized. So that means that the other ones they weren't compatible with life. Basically, they weren't going to make it.
Yep.
So because of the PCOS that I have, we chose to freeze them for a little bit.
Yep.
They wanted my body to calm down everything inside
Yeah.
and then restart again
Yeah.
to do it. They say, according to my doctors, for PCOS, that's like a better way to do it for me at the time.
Yep.
When they were looking at the egg count too, they also told us the reason sometimes you end up with so much less is, I might have had a good quantity, but the quality of my eggs was not great. So with me, my quality was not great because of the PCOS.
Okay.
I have all these eggs inside of me, but they're old.
Just the quality. Yeah.
I mean, at the time I was 36.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had been in my body and they're just not great. They're just mature, I guess you could. old eggs.
Old eggs.
Yeah. So we did that, and then this was when did we do this? In February of 2021 is when we did the actual egg retrieval. Or when we decided to move forward. We didn't do the retrieval till April.
Okay, so this was February 2021.
When we decided. The egg retrieval itself was in April of 2021. They froze the 3 embryos. Mm-hmm. We took she wanted us to take a month break and then start back up. So again, start back with the birth control. Mm-hmm. You're back on that. You wait till whatever date she says. So I think all of May, some of May, I was on the birth control. And then cycle day 1 again, you get your period, you call them, you go in. So then this is when we're getting ready for the frozen embryo transfer, my first one. Mm-hmm. So this is different meds too.
So you went through that entire experience and then you basically had to do it again for the frozen egg transfer.
Yeah, but not the same medications.
Okay, different medication, but still getting on the birth control, that whole experience.
Process. It's like a mind game sometimes.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
And also, hormonally, were you all over the place?
Oh my God, yeah. My poor husband.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about right now, if I just had all of that in my body, I think I would go crazy.
Yeah. That is, some days it felt like that. Like some days I just wanted to cry, and then some days my anxiety was like through the roof.
Oh,
and then other days I was like in a rage.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot of women have PMS symptoms.
Yeah.
They're doubled, tripled, the feeling.
I'm sure.
So, and then, you have those symptoms, but then it's also the feeling of, oh my God, this is a lot. This is a lot emotionally. This is a lot. Am I going to be able to do this?
Yeah.
Is this going to work? Stuff like that. We started it out, why don't we try to do the most natural cycle we can do? Mm-hmm. What basically she said she wanted my body to kind of do it on my own.
Yeah.
Aside from, maybe some added progesterone, when we did the transfer. Mm-hmm. Other than that, she kind of let my body do its thing. So we ended up doing our frozen embryo transfer. Now the preparation for this is about the same. It's same as your body's going through its normal cycle.
Yep.
And then when you're ovulating, that's when you do the transfer. Like you normally would. Mm-hmm. Still blood work, ultrasound, checking everything inside to make sure you're at the right spot. So we did it in June of 2021. The embryo transfer itself is pretty simple. You go in, you're in the same room you are that they did the egg retrieval.
Okay.
It's just no anesthesia, laid back. You lay on it down, laid back as you can be. You're stressing out like crazy.
You're I'm a little tense. Yep.
You lay back, you can watch it all on the screen. They have an ultrasound on you, and then there is an embryologist there mm-hmm. who thawed the embryo, and they make sure that all the criteria match. This is you, this is your date of birth, these are your embryo, and then you watch them watch it on the ultrasound. You can see it almost looks like a tiny little seed.
Oh my gosh.
Through your uterus.
Yeah.
This round we did 2 embryos.
Okay.
Because we said, well, we have 3. Why don't we just go for it? Let's do it.
Yeah.
So when they did that, they tell you to just kind of relax a little, no restrictions. They did want me to try acupuncture. I tried it. Mm-hmm. I'm not an acupuncture person.
Yeah.
I hated it. I felt like I couldn't relax.
Yeah.
But they say it does wonders. So I said, well, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
anything to help. Well, that didn't do it. That turned out to be negative. We did a beta just like the last with the IUI. You do it 10 days later, you go in for blood work, and it didn't take. So we had lost 2 embryos. So then we had 1 left. So we had to make the decision, all right, now what? We always wanted to change a little something, tweak it a little, because we were doing the same thing over and over again. She basically referred to it as, you know, you're beating your head against the wall.
Yeah.
Like, why are we going to keep it the same?
Right.
So our next transfer was in August.
Okay.
So we took like a little bit of, like a half a month off.
Yep.
Started back up again. This time we added in letrozole, which is a pill. If you look it up online, if you type in letrozole, it comes up as a hormonal chemotherapy drug for breast cancer.
Really?
But it can be used for IVF because it blocks the production of estrogen, which is why it helps with the breast cancer. But
Yep.
And it induces ovulation. So
Okay.
they thought, you know, giving this, maybe it would help increase our chances. So we took that pill. I took that pill form and then proceeded with the transfer. We did that same progesterone supplements, and then that didn't take either. So then I'm out of embryos. So then we had to decide what to do next. At this point, I kind of wanted to take like a breather.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was a lot. It was a lot mentally, emotionally. I was hysterical. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is never going to happen. I was like almost becoming depressed.
Oh, I'm
Even
sure.
though I
I'm
didn't-
sure.
you know,
Yeah.
You don't want to admit it. Like,
Yeah.
I had no, my husband's like, why don't, you know, you talk to somebody? No, I'm fine, but I just need a minute.
Yeah.
So that's what we tried to do. And then we moved on and we had to do another egg retrieval.
Okay.
So that
So the whole
decision-
process.
starts
Starts
again.
over.
Yeah. So that decision we kind of took a little time to talk about too.
Yeah.
Because we said this is a lot on our body, on my body again. A lot of are we going to be able to do this? You know, we had to look into insurance to make sure they were going to keep covering. Thankfully they did.
That's good.
So we were able to do that. In November of 2021, I did my second egg retrieval.
Okay.
We did add in a couple more shots, like a trigger shot, an extra trigger shot to try, and that did seem to do the trick. They were able to get 34 eggs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I thought that, okay.
Yeah.
I thought your initial round was
So
great, but that's
when
amazing.
they ever told me 34, I was like, oh my
Wow.
goodness. So it's good and bad. So with 34, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But then you run the risk of your ovaries are so overstimulated.
Okay.
They basically like leak fluid into your abdomen.
Oh my
So
gosh.
you have so I was on the cusp of having that.
Okay.
So you just feel awful. You're swollen. You're bloated.
Yeah.
And your body just can't recover because your hormones are raging and you're releasing all of this.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. Like
I'm
my
sure.
first egg retrieval, I could go back to work 2 days later because my body felt good. This, I took a whole week off, like not planning to. It just happened. But it was worth it.
Wow. Yeah, that's
34 eggs. I was super excited.
Yeah.
So they ended up, we got 23 that fertilized. And then this time we decided to do testing on our embryos. We hadn't tested to begin with because we didn't have any genetic markers. We didn't think anything of it at the time. Not a big deal. This time we said we're going all in. This is the part where insurance wouldn't cover this testing.
Okay.
So this was $3,500 out of pocket.
Okay.
They sent our embryos off to a lab in Florida. Not the actual embryo. They took little biopsies of the embryo and sent them to Florida. We found out, I think it was like a week or a week and a half later, we were able to have 5 normal embryos, which is huge.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
For some people, they don't hardly get any. Some people get 1. Some people get 3.
So 5 was amazing.
2
Yeah.
had something that wasn't compatible with life. I can't remember exactly what. I think they both were like a trisomy of some sort, but I don't remember what. They also were able to tell us the gender of the embryos, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we had 3 boys and 2 girl embryos. So at that time we were ecstatic. We were like, this is great. We're off to a great start.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully this works out. We kind of decided that we needed to do one more test just to make sure. We were trying to cover all our bases. Our doctor was trying to do this with us. So this test that she wanted us to do was called an ERA. So it's an endometrial receptivity assay, I think they call it.
Okay.
Everybody always just says ERA.
Yeah, a lot easier.
You go in and they take a scraping of your uterine wall. It's terrible. It's a terrible test. It's so painful.
I'm
I
sure.
never want to do it again.
Yeah.
Like, it was awful. I was supposed to have that done in December of 2021, right after Christmas. Well, I got COVID, so I had to cancel it. So there was the one hurdle.
Yeah.
So then we waited a month and we did it in January of 2022. They send that out to, again, a lab in Florida to see. What they're looking for is to see if you're receptive to the medication.
Okay.
So is your body reacting? Are we doing things too soon? Are we doing things too late? Or are we we're on track?
Okay.
I didn't have any results come back, like, for a couple weeks, and I'm inquiring, and they're like, yeah, we're not sure. So, like, 3 weeks later,
Probably the longest 3 weeks of your life.
Like a week and a half.
Wow, okay.
They're like, well, they sent us the results, but they say no result. And they're like, we've never had this before. We've called the lab. That's why it took so long to get back to you. They have no idea why. It happens in less than 1% of tests. I said, of course.
You're like, thank you. Thank you for that. Oh my
I
gosh.
said, could it be because I had COVID? We don't really know. It's hard to say. But in my head, I'm thinking, I mean, you never know.
Right.
Like, any sickness affects your body.
Right.
Could that have been why? So then I had to wait again, and I had to have a second ERA done in April of 2022. And after the first one, I said, I'm never doing this again. Yeah. This is terrible.
A few months later.
Ever. And then when they suggested I do a second one, they gave me the option. They didn't say you have to do this, but they said,
we recommend it.
Increase your chances. It's the best to do.
Yeah.
And I said, well, at this point, I'm not going to not do it. Of course, I don't want to do it. Who wants to put themselves through that torture?
Right.
But I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So I did it, and we got the results back a week later, and they were normal, which, is great.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, okay, well, you almost like want something to be wrong so you can fix it.
Right.
But it was normal. So we left it at that. That was great. So we decided to go forward with our third embryo transfer in May of 2022. We did that May 28th. This time I took off 2 weeks of work a couple days before, and then the whole time that was the waiting period, I was home.
Yeah.
I didn't want any extra stress. I didn't want to worry about, that. I didn't want to worry about this, like everything. I wanted to just be. And it worked.
What was that feeling like?
It was insane. The day we did the beta, my husband took the day off because he wanted to bring me to make sure, I was okay, because I was already like a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
And we went that morning, and normally, they call by like 12 o'clock. So all day long, neither of us moved from the couch. We were just
staring at the phone, just waiting.
We didn't do anything. We barely turned the TV on. We were just waiting for that call. Well, nothing happened. And then now I'm like, all right, they're gonna call with bad news. Well, they called at like 2 o'clock, and she was like, hey, how are you? I was like, fine.
Let's go. Tell me.
Totally nonchalant.
Right.
She's like, well, you're pregnant, and I just sobbed.
I don't blame you.
I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. I didn't even know what to do with myself.
That had to have been such an that is, like you said, that's almost 3 years of shots and doctor's appointments and medication, and that had to have been.
Like, me even saying it right now, like, in my head, I'm like, that doesn't even sound like a lot.
Yeah.
When you're going through it the day in and day out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like putting it like mildly right now. Like,
yeah.
It was there was so much more like that, just your thoughts and it overtook me. Mm-hmm. My whole being.
Your life is revolved around that. It's your entire, I
That's
can't.
literally all I cared about.
Yeah.
And good and bad. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be able to.
Well, it's got to be hard to not feel like that.
Completely.
I mean, when you're having doctor's appointments every 2 days and you're constantly doing the shots I don't understand how it couldn't be your entire life.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And while you're going through it, you know, everybody around you is moving on. Everybody around you is getting pregnant. Mm-hmm. Everybody that you see, everybody has kids, and you know, I love children. I love my family. At one point, I was like, all right, I'm done here. I don't know if I can handle anymore.
Yeah.
Solidified. Like, I knew I always wanted to be a mother, but this was like beyond. I kept saying to my husband, I don't care. We have to keep going.
Yeah.
We have to keep going. And I'm so glad we did.
That's so exciting. That has to be a day that you like always look back on.
I could picture every second of it.
Oh my gosh.
It was wild.
So did you have a great pregnancy? What was your pregnancy experience like? And did you feel like those first few months, were they a little scary for you? Like, what was it like?
Super scary. So when you first get the positive beta, you have to go back in for I had to go back in for 2 more. So a couple days later, I had to go back. They want to make sure that your numbers are increasing. Mm-hmm. So it was great. So after the second test, I said to them, do you know the gender? Because they wouldn't tell me the gender when they did the transfer. They said, I told them, just do the best one. So, and they didn't really want to tell me.
Yeah.
You know, they know people get excited for it. And so after the second beta, when I knew we were looking okay, I said, will you please tell us? And they're like, are you sure you want to know? And we both were like, yes, we've been waiting for this for years. And we found out it was a boy, which was super exciting. And then after your third beta, I think we were like technically like 4 or 5 weeks pregnant. I was something to do with the way the embryos are. And how
that's interesting. Okay.
Process.
Yeah.
It's all like scientific that I really can't even wrap around my head.
Yeah.
Still. But yeah, so at that point we had to wait like 2 weeks, and then we went in to the IVF doctor for an ultrasound.
Okay.
And then as long as everything was good, then they clear you to go to your doctor.
Okay.
Basically, you graduate from that.
I was going to say, it's kind of like a little graduation. Like you can move, now you can move on.
It's super sad because you grow to like know all these people.
I'm sure,
you
yeah.
see them every couple of days
Yeah.
for years. You know the phlebotomist, you know the nurses, you know the ultrasound staff.
You're probably like, I don't want to leave.
You know front staff.
It
was super sad.
Yeah.
They know your history, and you know that you can call them anytime and they're there. So to know that they weren't, taking over my care anymore, it's a lot.
Yeah.
That was probably scarier than worrying about making it to my next appointment. I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So you make an appointment with your regular OB at this point. So I think I went to them I was maybe 9 weeks, and everything looked good. And from there, everything was great. I honestly had an awesome pregnancy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I probably felt the best I've ever felt. I lost weight. I felt awesome.
Yeah.
I was, tiny bit nauseous. I didn't really get sick. More like food aversions. But I don't know what it was. I don't know if like I actually had like normal hormones in me as opposed to, when I'm not pregnant.
Yeah.
The PCOS symptoms take over. I felt like human almost. I was off of the IVF meds. I was off of.
You felt
everything.
great.
I felt like I was on like a high. Yeah, and the pregnancy was honestly awesome. My office was great about it. They, I'm 38, so I'm advanced maternal age. So they are a little extra precaution as far as towards the end. I went every week for an ultrasound to make sure the growth was still okay, and they offered a 39-week induction. And at the time when they first told me, I was like, who wants to do a 39-week induction? If you're fine, you're fine.
Right.
Well, we took them up on that 39-week induction, thank goodness, because I had had enough. And he was born on February 5th, and he's gorgeous, and he's the best baby.
He's so cute.
Yeah, he's amazing. That's all. I just want to be with him all the time.
I was going to say, what has been your favorite part of becoming a mom?
Honestly, all of it.
All of it.
Just love, I love taking care of him. Like, he's it. And just watching his every day, there's like something new that he does or looks like, or, his little cheeks change, or he's in 3 to 6 month clothes now. And like every day, I just love it. And I think every day that he's here.
It's probably, to everything that you and your husband went through, it probably just makes you appreciate every single moment even more, just because of what you went through to have him.
I feel like I'm trying to soak up I sometimes feel like I'm obsessed with him, because I'm trying to soak up every second with him.
Yeah.
Because of what we went through.
Yeah.
And I just keep saying, what if he's our only one? We don't know. Like, we went through hell and back to get here. And I want to make sure that he gets all of us, like every part of us.
Yeah.
And that we focus on him while focusing on life too,
Right.
and
Yes.
exploring the world. But it's amazing. It's everything I thought it would be, and it's even more.
And more. I'm sure throughout this process, you have realized that you are not alone in this process. I'm sure at moments it probably has felt like you've been isolated and you were the only one going through it. But do you feel like as you experienced it and talked to other people, do you think you've realized that there is a community that has gone through this as well? And like, has that helped you talking to other moms? Have you been able to, sit down and talk to other moms about your experience? And
Yeah.
do you think that helped what you went through and helped like your mental health as well?
Completely.
Yeah.
I actually said to my husband while we were going through it, I thank God that there is an Instagram.
Yeah.
Because I have followed so many fertility pages.
Yeah.
And they're everyday moms, some that live nearby, some that live, across the world. And they all are going through it. And that's how I survive some days, looking at their pages and hearing like the reassurance from them and what they went through, and researching things, and knowing that I wasn't alone. Were there days where that still didn't help? 100%.
Yeah.
There was a point where I did end up talking to a therapist, which I had put off and put off and put off, because I said, I don't need that. I don't need to talk to anybody. What do I need to talk to somebody for? Well, I got to the point where I didn't think, I was kind of trying to dig myself out from just being so sad all the time. It wasn't that I, was feeling like bad about myself necessarily, just I was just sad. So I talked to somebody, and that helped. I have a great friend group. They haven't really gone through all of this, but they've had their own issues, and they have been nothing but supportive.
That's amazing.
And
That makes a huge difference.
Huge. We have a great family, my mom and sister and parents and brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews, and his mom and dad and sister and sister-in-law, and they've been all so supportive. Obviously it's a little harder to talk to about with your family, because they don't quite understand,
right?
All of it. You have to explain a little more, but we couldn't have done it without the support, and truly, from everywhere.
Yeah.
Online, in person, across the world. Wherever.
It's great that you had that support group and that you had those people that you could go to, like you said, whether it was online and they lived across the country, or just calling a friend and talking.
Because truly, I know that even people in our own family, I have older cousins, or even our moms, and it wasn't talked about before. Nobody talked about it. It was all hush hush. And if it came down to that, if you did do that, nobody knew about it. You dealt with it yourself, you and your husband, and that was that. And they still, people hint around that things may have happened for them, but nobody will speak of it. In the older generation.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine that. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Dealing with
And
it on your own.
yeah, I can't imagine either. What would you tell a mom or parents right now who are experiencing infertility? What advice would you give them? What do you feel like helped you? I mean, we did just talk about one example, your support, but what do you feel like helped you when you were going through this?
Honestly, just having patience with yourself, giving yourself grace, because it's not an overnight thing.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot out of your marriage.
Yeah.
It takes a lot out of your body. You and your partner, or even if you're doing it alone, you have to have patience with yourself, and you have to allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to grieve. And they say, stress relief. Well, when you're going through it, obviously, it's not really, it doesn't seem feasible, but
Yeah.
you really have to take time for yourself to relieve a little bit of stress, because honestly, I really feel like the stress was the worst part.
Yeah.
It took a toll on everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I feel like stress affects your entire body. It can be debilitating.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And so anything that you can do, even if it's, going shopping or taking a walk
Yeah.
or anything, giving yourself patience and grace, it makes a world of difference.
I love that answer. Patience in all aspects. Okay, my last question that I ask every mom to end the episode is, what does your next chapter look like? As a mom, as a woman, as a wife, it can be anything.
After all of this, I want to take myself back for a little bit. Of course, part of me wants to dive right back in and do another transfer.
Yeah.
And, but I'm trying to get myself back a little, my own head, my own body, my own space, to prepare for the next one, or even right now, taking care of him, taking care of my house, taking care of my husband and my dog. And not that I want to be like selfish about it, but I kind of got to focus on me before, so I can take care of them.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think that's selfish at all. I think every mom I've asked so far what their next chapter looks like, it in one way or another has to do with taking care of themselves.
You can't take care of other people without putting yourself first.
Yes.
You have to fill your own bucket.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
And hopefully have another.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yes. Well, I just want to thank you for coming on. I think this entire topic, I don't think is talked about enough. I mean, like you said, even with our prior generation, but even now with our current generation, I don't think it's talked about enough. I think people are scared to talk about it, or they don't feel comfortable talking about it, or they don't think people want to hear about it. So I think, just this small act of you coming on and sharing your story, I think will help so many people, because it's so common. And I think so many women, parents, everyone, I think they experience it so much. And I think it's just great to share everyone's experiences.
I agree. I think it's, even if you're not doing IVF, it's still, if you're just trying to have a baby, all your focus is on that, and you do feel like it's an obsession. I remember going to parties and friends would ask me, and I'd just talk, and I'd be like, finally reel myself in, like, they can't hear this, but they do.
Yeah.
You just feel in your head like nobody wants to listen to you. So yeah, it's definitely not talked about enough, and I'm so glad it's starting to be talked about, because you feel like everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah.
Regardless of what stage you're at.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and that is today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to go follow Next Chapter Collective on Instagram at Next Chapter Collective, and head over to the website, thenextchaptercollective.com, and check back here for new episodes every Tuesday. Bye, guys.